holistic development of a child is something that is desired by all. Apart from academic achievements, a kid should be an expert in all the fields. Hence, it is crucial to provide those platforms and opportunities to the kid that can help them develop a growth mindset. To talk about holistic approaches to learning, we have with us an educator who is apt for today's EdTalks. She is a very experienced educator. She started her career as a PGT teacher and have reached the zenith of School of Education with her excellent skills to deal with the students. She is very particular about promoting academic excellence through holistic growth by creating that enriching ambience at school so that students can grow in all dimensions. Indian Federation of United Nations Association facilitated Ma'am as the brand ambassador for Swachh Bharat mission. She is a CBSE resource person and also shoulders responsibilities as a CBSE city coordinator for Panchkula. She is also the regional director for Student Quality Circle and is a member of World Council for Total Quality Excellence in Education. She has many accolades to her name. Please welcome Mrs. Gulshan Kaur Ma'am, Principal of Bhavan Vidyalaya, Panchkula. Welcome to Entab CampusCare EdTalks, ma'am. It is an honor to host an edu leader like you on our platform. Thank you for your time, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Kavni, for your warm welcome and a lovely introduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us today, ma'am. So, ma'am, let's begin with this session. Our viewers, first of all, welcome to all the viewers, and I hope all the viewers have subscribed to our channel. If you've not subscribed, please click that button and hit the bell icon for regular updates. So, ma'am, let's begin the session. Ma'am, as we know, the aim of education shouldn't be just limited to cognitive development, but also creating a character that suits the need of the time. What are your thoughts about it?
Kavleen, I totally agree to what you say that the aim of education should not be just limited to the development of cognitive skills. I should say that aim of education should be to facilitate learning by crafting learning experiences which brings out the unique potentials of an individual. And this one can do only if learning experiences one creates are varied and focused on different domains. That is what you call is, holistic learning. And so you need to ensure as an educator that you help children grow to be physically fit, mentally alert, emotionally balanced, spiritually connected, socially adaptive, creatively engaged, linguistically, very strong, academically excellent, effective in communication, sensitive to nature, and should have a global perspective. Times are changing, and so this, even if you see the skills, they are getting evolved. So the character which should get built up has to rise up, to the beautiful Sanskrit thought of Ano Bhadra Kratavo Yantu Vishwataha. That means let noble thoughts come from all sides. And so let us help children, build up a global character of open mindedness, cross cultural tolerance, resilience, multiliteracy and competency in information and communication technology, besides the core universal values which we all cherish.
Yes, ma'am, I completely agree with you. This a very nice thought to begin the session. So, ma'am, incorporation of skill sets and their validation is equally necessary as we know. Now that the new education policy also speaks of it, as a school leader, how do you intend to take this ahead?
You see, when we talk about the skill sets, as I've told you, the skills are evolving. What we thought of, 10 years back from now, the type of jobs, we never might have visualized the type of jobs what we are getting as of now, what we had 10 years back. And might be after 10 years from now, I mean, you don't know really what's going to get evolved and come up. So the world is highly uncertain and it is rapidly changing. So when the things are rapidly changing, you need to prepare children, prepare children for at least the universal skills which are like, timeless, and which are beyond the time and place coordinates. So for that, you need to create the projects, the activities, the learning experiences which help children, imbibe the basic characters which they will require in near time. So what I feel, when the skills are evolving, you see, we never have ever have thought of that we will land up during this time of pandemic, I mean, to sort of education, which is all online. I mean, we never, as educators, have even thought of uh, 8 months back. So now, what you feel and what I see, I perceive it that, like, the virtual communication is one thing which we need to imbibe in as a skill set in our children. We need to imbibe in the visual collaborative skills. There's a lot of knowledge, available on the net, but how to, utilize and validate the reliable knowledge, to that is what, again, a very important skill which the child should be knowing, the knowledge management. The emotional, social, cultural intelligence has to be developed, because the entire world is shrinking to a global village. So a person sitting here can easily, get connected to anybody in any part of the world. And so there's a lot of, this linguistic, cross-cultural linguistic component getting added to. So emotional, social, cultural intelligence with gig acumen, and of course, with all those basic, I should say, problem solving skills, focusing on solutions and not problems, the gig acumen, the multiliteracy in information and communication technology, self expression, working in teams with networked governance, advocacy, coalition, and collaborative leadership. It is the order of the day. And I think, we need to prepare children with this. Even the new education policy is focusing on skill sets. They are focusing on vocational skills, which at least, make you sort of atmanirbhar, right? The tagline which our prime minister has also given: be atmanirbhar, be self-dependent. So these are all the things, along with a heart to serve the community, is what we are aiming at. We are looking for it, and we are trying to, create such experiences, learning experiences for the children through various projects, through various activities, through various engagements, involvements, and, that constructive rather engagements. We are trying to, provide them all those skills. But again, I'll say, nothing is right, nothing is wrong, nothing is what we can actually predict as of now. But we can always say that there are certain skills which remain universal. There are certain skills which get evolved with time, and we'll have to change accordingly. So that mindset of openness is what is very important for the child to imbibe in.
Yes, ma'am, rightly said. So I hope we give time and we give that space to all the students so that they can be self developed. You had made a
That
very
equal
great.
opportunity has to be given to every child to grow and, nourish to be a good human being.
Yes, ma'am. I completely agree. I completely agree. So, ma'am, as we were speaking of learning and making the children self dependent in this dynamic world, ma'am, a thrust should also be given towards learning and to explain the students how to learn. Self directed learning, we are talking about. So, what are your opinions on this?
When the child experience learning in his own context, he actually learns better. So the thing is, I know there is a shift in learning from hand holding to, facilitating and telling that, okay, you are to be empowered and you will have to be more responsible yourself for your learning. There is a big shift. And the children, their mindset needs to be worked on. And for this, when I talk about that, how do we help children learn? The children should understand that they're just not learning to get scores. They are learning to internalize concepts. They are learning to experience learning in real time context, get it connected to real life, and then identify their learning gaps. And you know what happens generally when we link learning to the test scores? This is not a correct practice, because when you just link learning to the test scores, you actually defeat the very purpose of learning. You just you know what you do, you just put it in the mind that if your score is 95, oh, you are excellent, and if you are at 50, oh my god, you are really really worst, you need help. But in any case, you see, in both the cases, be it a child scoring 50 or be it a child scoring 95, the learning gap is still existing. There is no mastery over the content. So we need to help children internalize the content, apply the content. We need to tell them that even at a score of 95, you still have learning gaps and you need to identify your learning gaps. So when you have to learn it by making learning a leisure activity. Don't learn it with the pressure of learning. So, when you make learning a leisure activity, you actually enjoy it. Make learning the activity the way you enjoy it. Maybe you want to play with it. Maybe you want to, do some sort of serious reading. Maybe you want to learn it in the form of, a story. Maybe you want to learn it in the form of a film. I mean, it can be anything, but learning has to be permanent and learning has to be experienced in your own context. Like, say, a teacher is teaching a topic and she is simply reading it out to the child. But if you say, okay, visualize yourself as something to be that character who is in that particular topic, and then try to experience it, imagine yourself in his boots, then how do you experience it? So it's all about when you make learning in the context of the learner, you experience learning. So help children, develop habitudes, habits with good attitude. And the learner these days, I should tell you, the learner these days, we are dealing with Alpha Z and with, this generation, Alpha and Z. So both the generations, if you look into their characteristics, you'll find that these generations, they give up very quickly. If they're not, reinforced with positive feedbacks, because they want returns immediate, so they just quit quickly. So you need to help children, trade their learning helplessness with learning industriousness. And then when you reinforce them with positive feedback for the learning that they are into, I hope that learning will actually get self-directed then. And that self-directed learning with certain techniques, because since you're on virtual platform, you cannot sit for long hours. So we can tell them you can use Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes of concentration of work and then take a break. And that will help you internalize the concepts, that will help you absorb the things better. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, ma'am, you did. And the fact that we have to engage the child in various activities, as you said, taking the virtual aspect in mind was really, it is really appreciated, ma'am. So, ma'am, as we were talking about learning, we know you also mentioned that we are moving towards the virtual state, the digital state. So, how can teachers create a model that can infuse the interest among students to learn apart from the book and incline towards holistic learning and self development? Ma'am, apart from the traditional approach.
Good question, I should say, Kavleen. It's all again in tow with when we talk about the learner's aspect of learning. We talk about how teachers instill in that, how the teaching learning processes should be like. So yes, experiential learning is what I'm stating even over here. If the teachers are able to ignite interest in the child by shifting from teacher led activities to child initiated playful learning with positive reinforcements and immediate feedback based on growth mindset. Growth mindset doesn't focus on individual praise. It focuses on the positive reinforcement for the efforts that are being put in. So if you praise them for the efforts that they put in, they will realize the importance of that efforts. So if teaching becomes something like where you are again helping, I repeat, trading learned helplessness for learned industriousness with positive reinforcements for the effort the children are putting in, it will usually transfer their effort to larger endeavors, right? So the teaching learning practices, they have to get shifted from teacher led activities to child initiated activities, student centered. And in this time of pandemic, I mean, we had always been talking about teachers as facilitators. I think this pandemic has actually, thrown all the educators to the role of a facilitator. Because when you are, teaching online, I mean, you may have some children who have switched on their videos, off their videos, and you really don't know whom you're talking to, whether you're talking to the blank screen or somebody is there behind that blank screen. So actually, what it is, the teacher has to cull out the learning experiences or create it out in a manner that the child takes interest and switch on on his video to get that connectivity built up. So I feel at times that when you are able to engage and involve your class in a very interesting exercise which is catering to different domains of learning, it is then that your classroom engagement stands fruitful. So for that, the teacher has to develop her lessons, just not a very simple way of reading and then making the child listen. No, you will have to add on with your lessons different activities which are student centered and where the student takes up the lead. And that is where we say experiential learning comes, when you make learning transferred in students' context. And that is where, I mean, you will be able to attract as well as, trap the attention of the children. So the teachers will have to work literally hard to keep their learners engaged. So as educators, it's actually a task wherein you will have to find ways to get the learner interested in teaching in the learning process. So and every learner is unique, no single prescription for the teachers to define their teaching learning process. There is no single prescription. It has to be uniquely designed, individualized to the needs of the learner. So you will have to inculcate out, you'll have to first understand your class, the class group, their learning styles. You'll have to understand, you'll have to analyze and then carve out learning experiences to their choice by bringing, multidisciplinary approach to your teaching learning process.
Yes, ma'am, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with what you say. The learners right now have various needs, and we have to take care of all their needs. But, ma'am, the society is under constant construction right now, especially after the pandemic has set in. Ma'am, social institutions like school need to redefine a lot of things, keeping in mind the students. Please shed some light on what changes are taking place. What are your experiences?
See, Kavleen, what I see, that we have to redefine the things completely, be it in terms of organizational culture, be it in terms of core competencies and processes, be it in terms of learning processes and assessments, or, be it in terms of creating awareness. There is a lot of, change that we have experienced, and I think, change is always for good. Change is always for good because it's the change which is constant. And if we don't flow with the change, we will soon be out of it. So we need to embrace change the way it comes. And this change is like, it has brought a sort of, a new dimension altogether. It has added a new dimension to our thought process. So we never ever have even thought of that we'll get connected with the children like this. Yeah, if you talk about like as a school, what all I have redefined, I've redefined the learning processes, the teaching learning processes. I have redefined my assessment patterns. And you know what the biggest challenge was? You can teach, you can engage, you can, still try to, get across, okay, you are trying to bring in some well-being programs, you're trying to bring in some skill-based programs, you're trying to get connected with the children, but then that one-to-one interaction with the kids was possible. I did one-to-one interaction with all my children, and I really felt so good talking to them. Had it been in a normal situation, I mean, I'm not able to talk to each one of the child, but in this extraordinary situation, a different situation, I was able to interact with each one of the child. That was actually a positive of it. And if I talk about assessments, yes, this was a big challenge. You can teach, but then how to assess? So we tried to find out innovative ways, techniques. We brainstormed. We wanted them to write, and because our boards, they haven't changed their pattern. They still focus on writing skills. So writing is important. So we had conducted exams, but then we had to, before conduct of exam, we had to, sort of sensitize the children about why exams are important for them and not for us, why they need to be honest with their assessments and not us. That sort of value system was to be built up. And the integrity of the exams, at times, or these assessments, it's a big question at times. There you will find a few of them. I mean, let us be very practical and real. You'll find a few of them just to, color out their assessments. They adopt certain, unfair means, and you're able to understand, yes, these are the unfair means adopted. So how do we go about it? So we thought of some methods like teach back. I mean, okay, we need to understand that learning is internalized. So, okay, you are going to teach your peers. You're going to teach us whatever you have learned. And teaching is the best process to assess learning. So, and you learn more when you teach. So, we felt, okay, let the children teach us. And when the children will teach us, we will be, and let the teachers, rate their teaching. So when they are observed, when they are being rated for their teaching, when they'll have to teach, they'll have to do research, they'll have to study, they'll have to see that they answer all the questions. And what is assessment? It's all this. You want assessments to be fair, so assessment has been fair. So, we had to redefine many things. We also had to build up the digital quotient of the children and also have to make them understand how to manage knowledge. There's a lot of information available on the net, but then how do you validate what is reliable, what is not reliable is again very important.
So, ma'am, every change has brought something positive. Every change has taught something to us and the students. Ma'am, as we were talking about technology, you just mentioned. So, technology is helping to integrate and imbibe a lot of crucial aspects that help in recognizing and understanding many factors. So, ma'am, now, how can schools use this technology in integrating that culture amongst the students? You were saying about technical integrity. So, how can we do this?
You see, Kavli, technology is a double edged sword. So you will have to use it very cautiously. And at the same time, technology, you need to be technology enabled. You're not to be technology driven. So when you become technology driven, you invite a lot of problems. You invite a lot of, sort of issues. But when you're technology enabled, you actually use technology to the best of its usage. So here, as far as children are concerned, we need to, set a sort of uh, discipline about how to use technology. At the same time, a lot of awareness was created by talking to them on one-to-one basis and making them understand how important it is to develop and, nourish digital quotient in oneself. And that digital quotient is again, focusing on different parameters. The first thing is their online screen time. The screen time management is very important. You see, you might find schools who are like, taking classes for hours together, and that's not healthy, because when we expose our children to screen, we are actually, slowly pushing them to a sort of brain wire changes, the changes which happen in our brain wiring. There is a very beautiful concept of digital cocaine, right? And it is said it's a psychological, it was an experiment conducted which stated that the amount of cocaine when administered, what sort of, what sort of effect it creates on our brain, the exposure of the screen of online, this watching, is more profound. It is more profound and more impactful than administering cocaine. So they call it digital cocaine. And we have to ensure that our children, they are not thrown into this, this particular problem. So we'll have to make them understand how to manage their screen time. It's very important as a part of a digital quotient parameter. Secondly, they also should understand how to keep privacy. Their privacy management is very important. So they need to be taught, they need to be made aware. At least the child, when they fall into this teenage, we need to give them right direction. And the junior kids, we want parents to take up that responsibility, at least to be supervisory in their action, but at the same time trusting their children, having that trust with them. Then when we talk about cyberbullying, how to save yourself from cyberbullying, how to, build, there's a concept called digital citizenship, there's a concept called digital footprints. So we need to make children aware, digital empathy. We need to make children aware not just about just using technology, but how to safely use technology. So integrating it into the culture of the school, it requires a lot of efforts to be put in for its safest use. And as a principal, or even as an educator, or even as teachers, all the educators, it's their prime responsibility that if they are using any equipment or any sort of application like this, they should make the children aware of how to use it as well. So culture will get developed only if you create that awareness and you create habitudes. Again, I repeat, habitudes, habits with attitude and in a disciplined manner. That is what is required to develop culture and use technology the best way it can. Technology, I said, double-edged sword. So the sword has to be, very carefully and cautiously used to your benefit.
Very rightly, ma'am. And I hope our students and parents do develop these habitudes in them as we are getting to learn so much from you. So, ma'am, the viewers are actually commenting and really liking the session. So, to all the viewers, I hope you subscribe to the channel as we move ahead. And I wanted to tell the audience that 5 audience will get certificates for good comments. So, I hope you subscribe and do comment. Ma'am, the audience is really loving this show. So, if when we move forward, I would want to ask, when we talk about holistic learning, we cannot miss the parents' side. There are so many viewers outside who are parents. So, it is important for the parents too to focus on child's holistic development, as there are so much scope to prosper in other areas. So, what do you want to advise the parents? What are your views on this?
See, Kavli, parenting is an exercise, which we take up without getting some, standard qualification. We become parents when a child is born, and our parenting, style also grows as our child grows. But what happens? There are always certain hidden expectations which we all nourish. And if it is not fulfilled by us, we just pass it on to our children and we say, okay, now it's you who is going to make me proud. It's you who is going to, carry this dream of mine. Why are we doing this? Why are we not allowing our children to dream for themselves? Why are we burdening our children with our own dreams? It's important that we do not become high strung parents. Let us become liberal parents. Let us celebrate the uniqueness of our child. Let us celebrate and allow our child participate in everything without adding any burden of expectations. I remember an anecdote. It happened recently. I've shared it with you also. That a child, she asked me, my sibling has to participate, ma'am, in competitions which are being sent by the school, and the school has asked participate in all the competitions, and now he's panicked. How is going to prepare for it? And then I have to answer her. At junior years, rather you should be given an exposure to participate in everything, because you don't know, not just in junior years, even in senior, when you grow up. I mean, try your hands at everything without adding that factor of expectation that if I'll participate only if I win. No, that's not important. I'll participate because I'll gain out of it. I'll explore myself. I don't know, I may turn out to be a good singer if I try my hands on singing. I may grow up to be a good dancer if I try my hands on dancing, or I might be a very good artist. I might develop a skill of my own. So there are, the parents need to understand this. Giving exposure to their child in every field is very important. Just don't, suppress their I should say wishes, their desires. Just don't, strangulate them with your expectations. Just allow them fly, allow them explore the sky. You don't need now just standard qualifications for any job, and the set of jobs, the job environment has changed. As I said initially, 10 years before, what we might have expected, it's not now, and might be 10 years after, we may not be having the jobs which are today. So we cannot really imagine. So now it's important that we help child develop all his inner potentials. We need the child develop all the different skills, create his own skill set, because these skills, they actually don't need standard qualification or affiliation to any university curriculum. You see the jobs, digital analyst, and you don't have a standard curriculum except for a few universities offering it. And the children who have that digital acumen, the Google and other, multinationals, they are just hiring them without a standard qualification. They are just asking and testing them on their skills. And they are doing really well. The children are doing really well. I've seen so many young entrepreneurs coming up with excellent ideas. And if you'll see, they're all dropouts. They're all dropouts from the university. You talk about Bill Gates, you talk about, Zuckerberg, you talk about anybody. They're all dropouts, but they are doing wonderfully well. Wonderfully well. So that actually what you see is the entire scenario is changing. And so as parents, I do suggest go for liberal parenting, not high strung. Be liberal as parents.
So, this is a message to all the parents out there. Let the child shine, let him fly. Ma'am, thank you so much for your words. So, ma'am, as we are coming to the end of this session, any closing lines with the education community you have?
I have a closing, anecdote for the educators and parents both together. It's a small story from Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha was walking, through a village, and he found a farmer. He was reaping the crops. So he just went by his side. The farmer was totally unaware of the Lord walking towards him. He was just very busy, reaping the crops. And when he saw, all of a sudden, he saw Lord Buddha behind, and he was like, yes. He just stood up with folded hands, and he said, the Lord, you are here. And the Lord asked rather, what are you doing? He said, I'm growing crops. Lord looked at him very deeply, and he repeated the question, what are you doing? He said, I'm growing the crops. After a while, Lord again looked at him now very deeply, and he said, what are you doing? The farmer realized might be the answer that he has given was not right. He said, Lord, the crops grow on their own. I was just tilling the land. I was watering the crops. So, it is what is applicable to all of us as educators and parents, that we are not growing, that we are not making the children grow. They are growing on their own. But we as educators, we as teachers, we as parents, we need to provide them the right kind of environment to grow. We need to till the soil for them. We need to give them good, we need to water them. We need to see that all the things, all the, whatever is required for a crop to grow healthy, we should provide that. So it applies to us. Let us provide better environment for our children, a safe, secure, and growth oriented environment for our children to grow. So we are farmers. Let us act as farmers. Let us not act as, as almighty. So let the children grow at their own pace.
Ma'am, a very touching story that you've told us. Ma'am, your words has made us understand so much, and I hope our viewers have also learned a lot from what you said. Ma'am, educators like you are always guiding us and showing us the right path. Thank you so much for joining us today, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kavleen, and God bless you.
Thank you to all the viewers out there also. Thank you for joining us today. Please do subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon if you haven't. And I want to remind you again, 5 people from the audience for good comments would get certificates. So do comment, do like, do subscribe. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time for the Entab today. Thank you so much, ma'am.